Well, good morning. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. How are you all today? Special welcome to all the new people, both on YouTube and on Patreon. It's great to have you. You have joined what I often call the smartest bunch of people on YouTube. I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about our commenters. I do claim that I have the smartest commenters in YouTube land, and if you doubt that, just go read some of the comments because you can learn a lot from them as well, and especially over on the Patreon channel. Somebody said that I forgot to weed the weenies the last couple. They pointed that out, so let's get started on that. For you new people, there was a certain occasionally people would get very upset at me for taking a sip of my coffee. And I love coffee. I make my first video of the day while I'm drinking my second cup of coffee, and I like it, but I have a tendency to swallow loudly. I don't know why that is. It's just the way it is. There's nothing I can do about it. But some people just get all upset about it. And my question is always, if you expect to be able to, I mean, you're watching a preparedness channel, if you expect to be able to make it through the end of the world, how is it that you're so devastated by the sound of me taking a drink of my coffee? So we call this the weenie weeding, the gulp that gets rid of all those people who are so fragile that they just can't stand it anymore. And yes, for those of you who have asked, we are going to have some Stonemont coffee cups, so you all can join me in the weenie weeding each day. Let's do that, and then we'll get with the subject today. There it is. There they go. I want to talk about the basics. I just put up one over on the Patreon channel for our members over there. A couple of stories from my old martial arts days that illustrate the importance of the basics. And I don't think there's any area in which the basics are more important than in preparedness. We're dealing with a lot of complicated stuff going on. There seems to be threats from right and left. And it gets to the point where it can be almost overwhelming if you keep try to keep your eyes on the problems. And I've talked about this. I hadn't thought about this, including this today, but it's the perfect example. I have talked about, I think more on the church channel than any other, about the story of, you remember the story of Jesus walking on the water, right? Well, if you're not familiar with it, many of you are. I won't say most. I don't know. If you're not, basically, it tells the story of one night. The disciples they had left where Jesus had been preaching. They were out in the sea, on the lake, and they had fallen asleep. And Peter woke up, or they woke up, and they saw that Jesus was walking towards the boat across the water. It was very storms and high waves, and they were afraid and they were frightened, and they felt that they were in danger of capsizing. And they look out, and here's Jesus walking across the water towards them, and they thought he was a ghost. And so he said, "Fear not, it is I." And Peter says, "If it's really you, tell me to come out to you," because he had that amount of faith in Jesus. Bid me come out to you, and Jesus says, "Come." And so Peter steps out of the boat, and he starts walking, and he's looking at Jesus, and he's walking on the water, and then all of a sudden he takes his eyes off of Jesus, and he starts remembering and looking around at the waves and the stormy seas, and he gets frightened, and he starts to sink until Jesus extends his hand and lifts him up. Well, those waves are the problems. And this is of course it's an illustration of faith, but the real illustration is when you have your eye, when you're focused on the problems, you deal in fear. And when you focus on the solution, the fear goes away, because really our minds can only handle one thing at a time. And when you're doing something to solve a problem or to prepare for a problem, you're not concentrating on the problem itself, because you're doing something in which you have trust and faith, and that's going to get you through. Well, it's the same in preparedness, that with all of these things going on, and I know that it overwhelms people, because I get emails and I get messages, and some in the comments say, I just don't know what to do. It just seems like it's one thing after another, and it's everything's aimed at us, and how do you go about this? There's no way. I just want to throw up my hands occasionally, and that's understandable. I mean, but that's because of where that person's attention is. So the basics is where you want to be focused. The basics are your solution to any problem. And this is what I explained in the stories that I told on the Patreon channel. What are your basics? Well, your basics are food, water, shelter, defense, and people. And a lot of people forget the people part, because there are a lot in the preparedness community and that just flat out don't like people. And I think, and I have lost some subscribers, and that's too bad. I mean, it doesn't, I've lost a lot of people for telling the truth. Matter of fact, I had to dump some. I had so many. The last couple that I've made, I really angered a bunch of people. Tough, too bad, because I told the truth. And, while the truth will set you free if you're willing to accept it, the truth can also anger and upset people if they see themselves in that truth. And instead of saying, well, gee, that's true, maybe I ought to do something about that, they lash out at the person telling them the truth, and all of a sudden that person is the most horrible thing that there's ever been. So be it, so be it. But I should start adding that as one of the basics, the truth. So food, water, shelter, people, defense, and truth. And what I mean by that is, looking at things the way they really are, not the way that we wish they were, hope they will be, whatever, but looking at them for what they are. Seeing the truth in the situation, because if you don't see the truth in a situation, you're not going to be able to address it or to solve the problem. You're not going to know where to go, because you've made up something in your mind that's not true, and you're going to be dealing with that, which isn't going to help you with a real situation. So when people ask, and they'll say, well, I'm some people say I could never get that way, and others say I am working towards that, and in that mindset is all the difference. And some people will write me things about, and some comments you've seen probably, about how people are building their own stone mott, the subject of my books. But wherever, the way you get there is by doing the basics. And simply by increasing the basics as you go along. As you build a foundation, now you're able to build something on that foundation. But first, the foundation has to be right. It has to be solid. It has to be laid properly. And then it's going to be able to support the structure, whatever structure you are able to build on it. Again, back to a biblical reference, don't build your house on sand, build it on rock. So make sure your foundation is good. But whether, and we've talked here recently about so-called bugging out, that I call moving to an alternate location, which should be an established location, so that you're not running around in the woods for the rest of your life, looking for a berry or two. But wherever you are now, the basics are food, water, shelter, defense, people, and truth. And wherever you go next, those basics are going to be the same. You're still going to need food, water, shelter, defense, people, and the truth, seeing the situation for what it actually is, not what you like I say, what you wish it were, what you hope it will be, or what you're afraid of it is. And that can also get in your way. A negative thinking can be just as bad if you build things up to be worse than they really are. And fear can do that. I mean, fear magnifies the size, the danger of the threat. As where a refusal to see the truth can minimize it because you're not seeing it at all. Does that make sense? So, there was another one that I was going to make today, but this just kind of, because I made that one for the people on the Patreon channel, I thought that I'd throw that in because that is the basic. And as people, go farther and farther down the preparedness road, they have a tendency to want to get fancy, and adding to the basics in better basics is always good, but pursuing fanciful ideas is a waste of time, money, energy, and a lot of things, because it's the basics that are going to get you through. So just remember that regardless of what's coming our way, settle down, don't be afraid, don't be tearing your hair out thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get things done right now. If you usually, when you do something in a hurry, you're going to make mistakes. You want to put thought into it. Have a plan, have the basics in your mind, and see how all of those basics fit together. Yes, defense is a one of the basics, but if that's all you think about and you end up with 1,000 guns and no food, and nobody does that, but you see what I'm getting with. And the same way, if you've got 7 years of food but you don't have any way to protect it or whatever, and if you have all those things but you don't have people, it's the same situation, because people, and I want to make this point because we do have a lot of people out there who have expressed that, and I think it's common in the preparedness circles. People who don't like people, don't trust people, stay away from people, have bad experiences with people. Well, we've all had that. I mean, people are people, and people are your support system. And ask the military why they don't send just a whole bunch of individual people out there to fight somebody. Go out and find somebody to fight, right? I mean, that's a great example. They have support systems, and you need support systems too. So if you find that you're a little bit weak in any of those areas, just think about them, and go about it with in a methodical way. Go about it with a calm, thinking process, and keep your eyes off all those problems. Don't look down at the waves. Keep your eye on the solution. The biggest solution is Jesus, but He also wants us to prepare while we're here to be able to handle the things that come our way, because we have work to do here, right? So do that. If you're not with us on Patreon, love to have you over there. There's a lot more information over there, and it's only $1 a month, and the link is down below. And for those of you who have not yet read my books or have wondered about this, and I usually lead off by saying this is brought to you by the Stone Mount series, and I forgot to do that because I was busy drinking my coffee. The Stone Mount series, my books, a complete guide to how to prepare for, how to survive, and how to rebuild after a total collapse. It's the reversion, the revival, the renewal, and appeal to heaven, the blessings of freedom, and the latest one, hostages to fortune. They are available both on Amazon in paperback or Kindle, and through my website, stonemount.us. That link is also down below. You can order them directly from me and put a little note in your order that will say, would you like Steve to write a message in there, or do you autographed or whatever. And you can put right in there whatever you'd like me to write in your book, and I'm happy to do it. I love to do it. One of my very favorite things. I'm not really a YouTube guy. I'm a writer. And one of my favorite things ever since the first book came out in 2017 is the relationship and the communications that I have with my readers. And so if you haven't, I'd love for you to, because it really is. I tell people I could make videos for 20 years and I'd never be able to address all the things that I've already addressed in here in detail. So that's how to get those. And just remember, it's the basics that are going to get you through, like anything in life. It's the basics. It's not the fancy stuff. It's not the flashy stuff. And yeah, we do have problems coming our way. We got a lot of challenges coming our way. But that's no reason to get all excited about it. It's a reason to engage your most powerful tool and weapon and get done what you need to, so that you can handle whatever comes along. So remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And I'll talk to you either later today. I had another one on the list that I was going to do today, so maybe I'll get around to do that after I get some of the work done around here, or if not, I'll probably talk to you tomorrow. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.